And this display of religion in politics is so over the top. We have American hats with the American flags, which say, "God bless America," "One nation under God." All these slogans are then slapped onto t-shirts, hats, flags, you name it, and they wear it. Hi guys, welcome back to STEPHAN. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so and help our channel grow. Today I want to talk about God, guns, and all of the glory. So if you haven't already guessed it, we are going to talk about the cliche version of being American. And I'm going to compare this to Germany as far as my experience now living in Germany. So this topic actually came out of nowhere. Recently, I was talking to a friend of mine who had immigrated to United States many years ago. He was intrigued with the idea of why we moved to Germany. And through this process of discussion, we kind of realized that we thought of USA in a very similar way. My personal belief has been for the past few years that USA has become a bit stale. It hasn't progressed like a lot of the European countries have progressed. So through this conversation with him, I realized that there were three differences that I had noticed between USA and Germany, but I never really talked about these differences. So today I want to talk about these three differences that I see between USA and Germany that are at a very large level. Now, I say large because these concepts define society. They're not your typical cultural differences where how grocery shopping is different in Germany versus USA, or how going out to a restaurant and eating or ordering food is different in Germany versus USA. But these three concepts actually define society because they have such a huge impact on society and also a huge impact on the entire country. Honestly, I believe each of these 3 points deserves its own dedicated video to have a more thorough and absolute understanding of these concepts, but that is not the point of this video. For today, I want to point these differences out and start a discussion and start a thought process. I may do a dedicated video for each of these points in the future. Also, I'm going to stay neutral to these points and only point out what I've witnessed through my life's experiences. And also I will state some facts which I've collected from all of our friend, the internet. But having said that, I think my viewpoint on these are pretty much transparent just on the fact alone that I now live in Germany. In Germany, 60% of the population believes in God. That number may seem high or low to some people, but that is really not the point. The point is that the number is declining, and a lot of people in Germany over the past decade have been leaving the church. For that, there are many reasons. The two major reasons are, number one, taxes. The younger generation do not want to pay taxes. And the other reason is because a lot of people don't want to feel like they belong to organized religion, but they still feel they are Christian even if they don't go to church. Just as an interesting fact, the prominent religion in Germany is Catholic. There are 4.4 million Muslims and 100,000 Jews and 100,000 Buddhists. Obviously, there are other religions as well, but my point is that the German Constitution or the German Basic Law guarantees freedom of religion for every person living in Germany. The German government, however, is very neutral when it comes to religion. There is a very clear separation between church and state. So in my experience living in Germany, I feel that even when religion is not so overt and blatant, for the younger generation, it is recognized more as a tradition than it is as a religious aspect. It plays a role in pretty much everyday life. For example, Sundays, everything is closed, and that's because of the religious history. But everyone recognizes it, but is not hardcore practicing religion or talking about it all the time. The holidays are celebrated from a tradition perspective or a cultural perspective for the younger generation, and not so much from a religious aspect. Another fact is that in 2005, 62% of the population in Germany belonged to a church, whereas compared to 2016, only 55% belonged to the church. When we compare this to USA, the numbers are actually not that different. They are higher than Germany as far as people believing in God and church. It is more of the mentality of the people, to what extent they go to display their love for God and religion in public. They did a survey in USA, and 6 out of 10 people said that God and religion play a very significant role in everyday life. Whereas when they did the same survey in Germany, it was only 21%. In 1963, 90% of the US population claimed to be Christian. And in 2016, that number fell to 73%. Those are the facts, but now my experience of growing up in USA and now living in Germany, how I see the differences between the two countries. I grew up in California, and even in California, it always baffled me that people, and I'm talking about my friends, majority of my friends are very blatant when it comes to religious beliefs. And I'm talking about friends from all different walks of life. Indian friends, white American friends, friends which are from other parts of the world. Majority of my friends on social media will constantly post something about religion or God, whereas I don't see that from any of my German friends. Down to the point, if someone catches a cold or if someone is sick, immediately on social media, a lot of my friends will post, "Please pray for me. I am sick. I'm not feeling well. Pray for my speedy recovery." If someone is in school, then they will post something like, "Pray for me that I do really well in this test. God help me. Praise the Lord," and on and on. So you get the point. Some of my friends in California go to the point of weekly posting Psalms from the Bible. And I never really understood why. It's okay to believe whatever you believe and practice whatever you practice in the privacy of your own life. So the difference that I see between Germany and USA is very blatant and overt. And this affinity for religion and God, it's not only at a personal level, but also plays a huge role into the nation itself. So, USA has all these slogans, which I actually didn't know. God bless America. In God we trust. One nation under God. And this leads to we the people, proud to be American, flying high the American flag any chance one gets. And in Germany, I don't see any of this. Which leads me to the next point of glory. Bum, ba-bum, bum, bum, bum. Bum, ba-bum, bum, bum, bum. Patriotism, politics, and the great glory of God and country. Religion and faith play an essential role in American politics. Currently, 83% of the US population describe themselves as Christians. And 91% of the current Congress is Christian. And every president that the US has had so far has been Christian. All of this is fine, but the problem is that religion and Christianity and the faith play such a huge role in the American politics that people will overlook what the candidate will bring to the table for a healthy economy or a healthy future or a progressive future, as long as they can relate to that candidate at a faith level. Interestingly enough, US also has separation of church and state, but that doesn't play out in real life. And it's so apparent to the point that even in ad campaigns for political candidates, Christianity or faith values will play a huge role. Because at the end of the day, the 83% of the population which describe themselves as Christian can now relate to this candidate. And this display of religion in politics is so over the top. We have American hats with the American flags, which say, "God bless America," "One nation under God." All these slogans are then slapped onto t-shirts, hats, flags, you name it, and they wear it. Now in Germany, of course, there is a relationship between politics and religion, but it is nowhere to the level that we have it in USA. Germany also has a very clear separation between church and state. The difference, however, is that Germany actually follows through with this separation. Germany tries to stay very neutral when it comes to religion and politics. And to me, someone who's an outsider coming into Germany, it shows. And I personally appreciate this. Now we are at our last part. This one I really want to share my personal viewpoint on, but I will refrain from doing so. It is about guns. So gun ownership in USA is the highest in the world. I actually didn't know this fact. But to slap a label on the US culture when it comes to gun culture, I think one needs to understand the history of USA as well. So if you look at the US history, I think then you can begin to understand where this obsession with guns comes from. It all started from the Revolutionary War, and along with that also with the traditions of hunting and the ways of frontier living, which is very different from any other country if you really think about it. But that doesn't really excuse the fact that we are living in now a current world and things need to change. This year alone, thus far, in 2021, percentage of death per 100 people. In USA so far, it's at 12. In Germany, it's only 0.99, so 1%. And that's a huge difference between the two countries. I will refrain from getting into entire politics of the gun culture in USA because I think that would be such a huge topic to discuss in this short video. The difference that I see in Germany is that first of all, there is no obsession. Majority of the population that I speak to, they're all pretty much on the same page. To own a gun in Germany, you have to go through very stringent process of obtaining a gun. And the acquisition of having this firearm is constantly evolving because of what happens in the society. In USA, when there's a mass shooting, there's very little change that happens on obtaining a gun. Whereas in Germany, the two mass shootings that happened in the past few years, those two mass shootings, or school shootings, I should say, brought a lot of change into the regulations and laws of how one can obtain a gun. And when you compare the data with other countries, not just Germany, USA is one of the highest in the first world countries. But if you take all of the countries in the world, USA is still up there. And that, in my personal opinion, is pretty significant number. And this, I feel, something that should not be taken lightly because owning a gun is one thing, but the laws and regulations that surround it on ways to obtain this firearm, I believe, is the actual issue. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I believe that I should do a video, a dedicated video on each of these points. But for now, this is what I have, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week.